Hello, hi everyone, and thank you, Rakeeza, for this introduction. I'd like also to thank everyone who joined us online today and shown an interest in the program. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available via the IIS website for those who may have missed it or who wants to listen to it again. So we hope that many of you will find answers to the questions you may have, but also be encouraged to apply for STEP. So following the opening remarks, I'll spend 15 minutes or so presenting the program, its structures, the related academic elements, and why you should consider enrolling. More details on some of these and more matters are provided on the IIS website, so please do visit it afterwards. So next slide, Rakeeza. So what a better way but starting this presentation with the remark from His Highness the Aga Khan, the Mamlana Hazar Imam Irshad delivered on, to the global leadership at the inauguration of the Golden Jubilee commemoration in July 2007. Quote, I am looking forward in particular to the time when our secondary curriculum will have been completed and will be taught by professionally trained teachers. Observe around you what has happened in many parts of the world where teachers are dealing in matters of faith where they are not educated properly to do so. Unquote. Let's pause to consider at least 3 aspects pertinent to STEP in this quote, which was given just a few months prior to the STEP program launch in 2007. Yes, that many years back. So the first aspect, the secondary curriculum. And this is the curriculum which consists of aesthetically and intellectually stimulating material created for the Jamaat by the Institute. The second aspect, professionally trained teachers. And this is where STEP students come in, having completed the rigorous training required by the Institute and its partner institutions in order to teach the secondary curriculum. The third element is contemporary challenges facing humanity, including the Ismaili communities around the world, especially youth. Among many aspects, those may include matters related to faith, climate change, decolonization discourses, and so on. And most crucially, in this, there is a critical role of teachers in this process. So just to kind of sum up in this regard, the Institute mission has been to foster and promote the critical scholarship on Islam and Muslim civilizations, with particular focus on Ismaili history, communities, and heritage, which is equally embodied in the training it provides in its postgraduate programs such as STEP and GPISH. Secondary religious education teachers who complete this training then play a vital role in delivering the IIS secondary curriculum to the Ismaili adolescents around the world in the languages of and contexts they come from, thereby contributing to the extension of a living faith tradition. STEP is a program delivered in partnership with UCL and SOAS with the aim to address the need for professional secondary education instructors by training exceptional graduates into mentors and teachers and community educators who can help in shaping and inspiring future generations in a global context. So during this 2 years of study on STEP, students critically engage with variety of topic matters related to Islamic studies, Muslim societies and civilizations, education theory, and teaching practice. So, what are some of the reasons for you to choose STEP as a program and a career path? Next slide. So some of those include developing into a life learning reflective practitioner by obtaining theoretical knowledge and hands-on training in UK mainstream schools and Ismaili religious education centers, to become a community educator and a change agent in the field of education. You could also engage in a critical study and appreciation in Muslim history and traditions worldwide, including Ismaili traditions. You can engage in and interact with diverse cross-disciplinary faculty at both institutions, the IIS and UCL, as well as your peers from around the world. You can participate in and learn from educational field trips and excursions in England and in Spain, which is subject to travel guidance and advice as always. And you can study in bustling and culturally diverse city of London, filled with plenty of educational opportunities. As a result of your 2 years of studies at the IIS, you earn 2 master level awards from renowned UK universities, and that is SOAS for your masters and UCL for your PGDIP, as well as you can get an employment with the ITREB upon successful completion of the program, and you can become a STEP alumna. And these are just some reasons why you may want to join STEP. Next slide. So now let me elaborate on what is STEP then. It is a 2-year program that culminates, as I've mentioned, in 2 master level awards. That is Masters in Muslim Societies and Civilizations, or MA, and Postgraduate Diploma in Teaching and Reflective Practice, or PGDIP. Both of these awards form a bespoke STEP program for our STEP participants. Next slide. Studying for both degrees, which are, by the way, offered concurrently over the 2 years, allows you to gain a more advanced understanding of subject knowledge and classroom-based practice, as well as analytical and transferable skills and values. This will assist you in developing into community educators and professional teachers, as well as facilitating a successful implementation of the IIS secondary curriculum, while utilizing pedagogical approaches relevant to your specific circumstances, context, and beyond those. So as part of the MA modules, as you can see on the slide, it is part of your academic training for the MA degree, and you develop as students and cultivate systematic understanding and engagement with the subject knowledge in the interdisciplinary field of Muslim and Muslim cultures, civilizations, and Islamic studies, with the focus on societal, civilizational, and humanistic informed approaches. Within these broad elements of the study of Islam and Muslim communities and civilizations, a special emphasis is placed on Ismaili heritage and tariqah, with a focus on the IIS secondary curriculum, as well as faith formation in nurturing among youth. So among many other pertinent aspects and topics related to secondary religious education teachers, students engage in the analysis and discussion of the dynamic, context-specific, and global realities affecting the Jamaat and youth in particular, their contextual similarities and differences, as well as the opportunities and challenges that these pose or offer in nurturing moral and ethical reasoning and practice among adolescents and the Jamaat broadly. STEP program assists teachers in developing students' spiritual awareness and ethical commitment, as well as encouraging them in exploring some of the existential concerns and questions and finding personal meaning and inspiration in their faith tradition. So again, for PGDIP, it's again another structured teacher education element that promotes academic rigor as well as practical understanding and implementation of educational theories, instructional practices, and reflective practice. At the IIS, we provide ongoing opportunities for you to connect your PGDIP and MA learnings through practical experiences, such as through regular professional learning communities or PLCs with dedicated PLC facilitators and peers. You're offered religious education center observations and mentorship support, as well as series of teaching and learning sessions with the IIS academics, teacher educators, and practitioners. In addition, the course offers an ongoing professional development opportunity through the workshops, seminars, and peer collaboration cooperation. As with the preceding slide, the IIS website contains additional information about the PGDIP modules as well as MA modules. Next slide. And Importantly, the closely integrated with and supporting students' academic training is a practical component of the program, which students gain through a variety of well-supported teaching opportunities that allow you to become excellent practitioners, classroom practitioners. In your first year of studies, you also get experience, professional assistance from experienced mentors and facilitators while you complete your 80 days of extensive teaching practice by being placed in UK mainstream school placements in London. And over the course of 2 years, STEP students teach the IIS secondary curriculum in the Smiley Religious Education Centres in the United Kingdom and its jurisdictions, as well as their home context. Okay, next slide. And not to forget the one of the exciting, stimulating opportunities provided by the master's degree. It's an exploratory educational field trip to Andalusia, Spain, after the first year of study. So this is again subject to travel permission, but this trip is intended to expose students to various perspectives on the delivery of the IIS by encouraging a deeper knowledge of curriculum content and collecting appropriate teaching resources. It provides a comprehensive overview of some of the historical content associated with Muslim societies and civilizations, which students will be able to bring in life in the classroom, in their classrooms. Students tour the Great Mosque of Cordoba, the remains of Madinat al-Zara, which is the winner of the Aga Khan Award for Architecture, and the beautiful palaces, fountains, and gardens of Alhambra, among other famous hotspots in Spain. The trip will allow students to observe and get insights into the blending of religious and secular forms and functions of buildings and locations throughout history, as well as their current uses and how they contribute to construction of people's identities and practices. So I think for now, I'm going to stop so that if you're interested in pursuing a teaching career and receiving training in the domains of education and Islam, I would love to invite you to apply to STEP. And if you wish to contribute to nurturing the youth in their faith tradition and equipping them to tackle difficult questions they may be facing in this day and age, then this is the program for you. Now I'll pass it on to Rakeeza, who will provide you with or introduce you to our student participants who are going to share with you some testimonials.
So we've got 2 STEP students who will be speaking for a few minutes each to share their experiences with you. Zaina, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hi everyone, Yalim Madad. I am a STEP student in my second year, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what studying in London is like. You have this beautiful building once you come here to study in. All of your classes for the IES will be in the Aga Khan Center. And it's a beautiful building. There are plenty of spaces to work. We have a really beautiful library as well. There's also spaces to work at UCL. One of my favorite places to go study and complete assignments is the Student Center at UCL. It's very close to the building where a lot of your classes will be for your PG-DIP certificate. And there's a lot of diversity that you will interact with throughout your studying, going through classes, as well as the cohort you come in with, and you learn a lot of things about different traditions, different cultures, the way we see things, and it's all so much fun to interact with, and you learn a lot, and it only makes you all the better as a teacher. So another thing I want to talk about is the Spain field trip. And it's one of the best trips that you will probably take here. A lot of our cohort mates also take small excursions to Brighton and other parts of London. And you should definitely take the opportunity to do that to get to know the place better. You'll be able to connect with your students as well once you start teaching that way. In Spain, I was able to see a lot of connections with our history classes. As you can see the sites in person, and you can make connections that way, and it excites your students as well because they're like, oh, you've been there, and you can say, yes, I have been there. And so yes, so Rahmat will talk a little bit more about the teaching experience with you now.
Hello, Yali Madad, and my name is Rahmatnazar, and nice meeting you, like all of you here. And so I would add a little bit to Zaina's point and Dr. Zamira's. So my teaching experience here was very transformative. In a sense, like we had a lot of teaching practices, both in a mainstream school, but also teaching in different contexts of the UK, teaching bilingual classes. And you know, when you look at that, it is like so much work that was done during these 2 years. And I was so fortunate, like, to be part of this program and a social part of a social life of the in London here. So aside from your academic life, so you can join many like circles of like social life here. So let's say that I've been part of football, yeah, playing so near Victoria Hall, that where we live, and so because I'm very passionate about football, and I'm the one that who is organizing it, and we have a separate group for playing football and volleyball. So you will not get bored here, trust me. So try to be part of any group or any circle. So it depends on your interest. And yeah, it's so much fun, and it's amazing experience here. Honestly, both professionally, personally, and also intellectually.
Thank you very much, Rahmatnazar. Thank you very much, Zaina, as well. And I think if there might be more questions, I mean, at the question and answer session, please, you're welcome to ask questions, more questions from the students about their life, the experiences, the educational, professional, and other elements of the program. Rakeeza, over to you.
Please note that you can direct your questions to any of us, but as I mentioned earlier, if they are about the application process or your eligibility, please join next Wednesday for our webinar where you can find out lots of information about that, and there'll also be another Q&A session to specifically address those kinds of questions. So I can see one person's got their hand raised. If you have any questions for any of us, you can type them up in the chat and we'll read them out. And then the relevant person can answer them for you. But just to draw your attention to these couple of links here, the applications are already open. So you can register now and get started, or you can wait until next Wednesday when you've got a bit more information to start your application. And there are some FAQs available on our website. So you can follow this link down here or go directly to our website and follow the correct tabs to find the frequently asked questions and answers. But just a rough kind of overview here on the eligibility. Most candidates will require proof of English language proficiency. So that's something that if you don't have, we advise you to get as soon as possible, because the application deadline is going to be the 21st of October. So please bear in mind that you will need to have that before applying. I'm just going to check the chat now to see if there are any questions here.
So yeah, the first question is, I think, or the question I can see, as I understood, we are allowed to join side activities that we are interested in during the program, yes? So, well, I guess what you're referring to is extracurriculum or activities which may be interesting or you might be interested yourself, yes. So the program, I mean, we have to be obviously very clear and open that the program is very, very rigorous. And so there won't be too much of a time to do side activities, but with good planning and time management, you really can find that time to bond with your peers, to get to know the context better, to get to learn from UCL, SOAS programs and students, the students at the IIS, the students at the Agahan Center, which includes the Agahan University ISMC students. So really you can do a lot, but you have to be learning, if not already, the skills of time management and so forth, so that you can really enjoy and be on top of everything else, particularly your academic study with us, and couple it with anything and everything which could be exciting and you can handle in a balanced way, kind of thing. Yeah, so that you don't get exhausted, it doesn't compromise your studies.
I would also add, hello, my name's Kate. I'm the Student Services Manager at the IIS. And in addition to what Zamira has said, and again, to remind you about how rigorous the programme is, whilst your student route visas entitle you to work in the UK, your IIS contract that you sign with us explicitly states that you cannot work for the duration of your programme. So you can't take a job, for example, on the side. You won't have time, but just to let you know that. However, I also wanted to add that Student Services organises a series of activities, social activities, well-being activities, anything from sort of bake-offs in the residence to meditation sessions to little gardening sessions, planting plants for your kitchen, open mic nights, quizzes, Zumba, throughout the academic year. And you get you get a sort of program calendar at the beginning of the year that lists all of these things for you, that you can join as well. They are part of your program. You don't have to pay for them or anything, but it's a good way to relax. They're built into your schedule, so you don't have to sort of devote an evening to them or anything like that. And they're also a great way to get to know other people in other years in your on your program, and also on the program running alongside in GPISH. So it's a good social thing to do too.
I can see another question with regards to, can we apply for STEP and GPISH both at the same time? I think we probably need to begin by saying that while the programs are run by the IIS, the aims and missions of those are different. It in no way would prevent you from applying to both programs, but you have to be really clear in your applications why you'd like to apply for STEP, and when you do, if you do your application for GPISH, why GPISH? Be mindful not to submit same application for both, because the aims of the programs are different, and you really have to be able to persuade us that you're interested in one or another program or both. Yes, but you are able to apply to both. So the English language proficiency question, I think that one, Rakeeza, could come next Wednesday, isn't it, as part of the application? Yes. So a number of your questions related to the degree equivalency, the academic tests, degree English language proficiency, those will be picked up on next week, unless, Rakeeza, there is anything you wanted to add. There is some preliminary responses which may answer your questions under the FAQ on the IIS website. As you can see, STEP frequently asked questions. It's on the IIS website. So those may respond to your questions as well as related to the admissions.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we will address the IELTS or other English language tests next Wednesday, but as Zamira just mentioned, you can find all of this information on our FAQs page. If it's if the question is regarding whether you will need one, most likely you will need one. There are a few countries which are listed on our FAQs page that would be exempt from requiring a proof of English language proficiency, but the vast majority of our candidates generally do need an IELTS test or equivalent. There are only a few tests that we accept. So again, please go and check for whether the test you plan to take is on that list. But I can see here somebody's asked about whether you can take arts academic instead of arts for UKVI. That's fine, as long as it's IELTS academic, we can accept that it does not necessarily need to be the UKBI version.
Okay, and the next question I can see, what would be the class timings? Again, it depends. Remember, you're studying for 2 awards concurrently, for PGDIP with UCL and for MA with us at the IIS. So there are certain days through the week in your first year which are dedicated to MA classes, and certain days dedicated to PGDIP classes, and then a number of days where you go to mainstream school placements. And in certain terms, you also teach in religious education centers in UK, either online or face-to-face. So in second year, the mainstream school placements do not take place, but you have more MA classes. So it really depends which element of the program you attend. But classes on MA usually start from 10 o'clock and finish around 5 o'clock, depending on the number of classes scheduled that day. And similarly, the schedule is very similar for PGDIP classes, start from 10 and finish around the same time, if not earlier. The mainstream school placements, they are full day placements where you have to travel within London to a dedicated school. And those days are a little bit more rigorous because you have to be there in schools at around 8:30. And travel in London does take time to get there. And then you complete the school day with your teaching, observations, and so forth, with any other extracurricular activities within the school, attending meetings, mingling with peers or your mentors or other teachers or teacher trainees in that school, and then you return home. So it is quite packed, but as I mentioned, there are opportunities and windows for extracurricular activities and so forth. Rakeeza, any other questions you can see which require? Oh, I see how many academic tests take place other than the thesis. In my slides, you've seen the MA modules and PGD modules. Those are core kind of subject matters or modules which are being studied each term. So there are 6 modules on MA and 4 modules on PGDIP. So for each of those modules, you will have a set of assessments. Those consist of essays, presentation, YouTube video presentation, portfolio, producing a portfolio, thematic analysis, mini report or kind of analysis of an article or primary source, so it's a combination of things depending on the subject matter you study. But what we're trying to achieve with that is really not to enable you just to be able to write academically, but also to memorize stuff, to present it in a convincing and critical manner. So this is kind of the type of assessments, but they may range from 2 to 3 per module, in addition to the dissertation.
I can see a question here about which course offers more focus on faith and religion.
So faith, ethics, and practice is one of the modules on MA, which is really doing that. We also have the Quran module, which is bringing that element as well. The history module, even though it is called history, it's not just about history. It's not a conventional way of teaching history. It's more an integrated way of looking at the history as something which talks about civilization, talks about art and architecture, which considers intellectual traditions, which considers multifaceted aspects of human life, particularly Muslims. And it does look into the moments, kind of the historical trends in Muslim and Ismaili history, as well as broader happenings in the world. So the contemporary, for example, Islam module looks into the issues affecting Muslim communities, but also focuses on Ismailis. And there is always, through the seminars, for example, an attempt to connect it to the IIS curriculum in your classroom practice, but also your own context where you come from, so that you can problematize those matters even better and at a greater depth. I hope that answers your question. So it's not just because you're studying history, it's not that it's not connected to faith. There is always, because it is an interdisciplinary study of Islam, so there is always this connection and interdisciplinarity woven into, and ultimately remember, you are trained the STEP teacher, so it is bespoke to train you as secondary religious education teachers, to enable you to face the youth, the Jamaat, and respond to the pertinent questions which might be raising or, you know, asked by the Jamaat and youth, as well as their parents.
Okay, there's a question about the ITREB jurisdiction. Zamira, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it now as well. So jurisdictions. So remember, STEP, unlike GPISH, you enter into a partnership contract, so to say, we call it, between the IIS, yourselves, and the ITREBs. So because you're trained to join after the completion of the program, a respective ITREB where you reside. So if you come, the question is in Netherlands. So if it falls under UK jurisdiction, which it does, you have to be kind of, you know, in communication and discussion with the ITREB UK. But please remember that there is a requirement for, as part of the eligibility, you have to have at least 1 year of REC teaching experience, irrespective in which country, but you have to have it. And for ITREB UK to really support your application, you have to talk to ITREB UK and start, if not already, practicing in religious education centers. More recent experience from RECs really gives you an edge when we consider your applications, right? If you had, particularly if you may have had a long gap, it also enables us to understand that you really are interested in becoming a STEP teacher, and this is the career that you've chosen, because remember, there is a contract after completing STEP for 5 years to work with the ITREB UK. So you really, really need to be passionate about teaching in a religious education setting. And because the program is so rigorous, without that passion, you really won't enjoy it as much or benefit from it as much. So please do talk to ITREB, and do consider teaching in religious education centers if you haven't done so in the last years, in order for us to consider your application favorably. But do talk to ITREB UK. Okay, and it's the response as related to any other ITREB jurisdictions you may be coming from. So since you're not allowed to work, how much stipend would we get? The stipend is given as part of the contract, but it's really it's a living allowance, because what is coming with it is that your accommodation and all the travel expenses to Beit al-Ilm, to religious education centers, to your mainstream school placements are all covered and reimbursed by the Institute of Ismaili Studies. So, and the residences where you live is literally less than 5 minutes walk from the King's Cross building at the Agahan Center building at the King's Cross, as well as probably 20 minutes walk to UCL premises of teaching. So the living stipend is aligned to the requirements set by UK government. So it's really enough for you to be here, to support yourself as a student. Remember, not as a family, but as a student. Okay. You are not one important disclaimer while you're here, while you are allowed by UK government to work part-time as a student, the IIS scholarship mandates you not to work. And that's the reason why you're provided scholarship, because the program is so rigorous and we really need your full-time attention to the program and the opportunities which are part of the program, or anything you choose to do it as an extracurricular activity.
Similar-ish question about if the place of residence changes after or during the program.
So, okay. So with regards to ITREB jurisdictions, when you come to us, there, as I mentioned, there is a contract. So you have to return to work with your respective ITREB to complete the year's contractual commitment, and then relocate to the country you may be going through. So please do consider carefully, because it's not something which is an ordinary way of happening, for example. So yeah, so you do come on a contract with a certain ITREB, and it has to be carefully considered before you join. If you're trying to relocate, maybe relocate and reapply with that ITREB, because it will really complicate this whole scholarship and contractual commitment aspect of STEP teachers. So when ITREB vouch for you to come to study, it's because there is a need for you in the jurisdiction. It may not be necessarily in the new jurisdiction, or there may be any other reasons which may not be enabling you to join that alternative jurisdiction. So please do consider carefully which jurisdiction you apply from, because the contractual commitment is very serious matter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of questions around the stipend. So the whole scholarship, I think you touched on this already, Zamira. The whole scholarship includes accommodation, arrivals flights, and a living allowance. And the amount that the IIS gives is just above actually what the UKVI require students in London to have. So it is a healthy stipend that allows you, it's a living allowance that allows you to live comfortably. The accommodation is fully paid for. There's nothing to pay in terms of accommodation or bills or anything like that.
And the accommodation is is a 5-minute walk from the AKC. So although you'll be traveling for teaching and things, and those things are reimbursed by the IIS, and you'll hear more about that if you join the program on a daily basis when you're coming in for classes outside of the teaching, etc. You're just a short walk away.
There is also a question about the recent experience in REC mandatory, or is previous experience also considered? I think just to clarify that all the experience with REC, whether at primary, ECD, or secondary level, is considered. It's just that if you had a wide gap, let's say 5-10 years of no teaching in RECs, and now suddenly coming to join the program, that's gonna be probably queried when we look at your applications. So it's best to really, I mean, having that large break means that yeah, it's just going to be looked at a little bit closer why this break may have happened. It doesn't mean that you will be rejected necessarily, but it will raise questions as of what may have prevented you or not from joining ITREB, and why this wide gap may be there. But I think it's worthwhile to consider to work with your RECs if you've not worked in long period of time. Because things change, and it also gives us the sense of greater commitment on your part to the STEP program and working with the ITREB jurisdictions. You've also asked, is teaching assistant and the STEP teacher counting as teaching experience? Absolutely. You can't teach at secondary level unless you've graduated. So the only way for you to teach at secondary level is under the mentorship of STEP teacher. So absolutely, we absolutely welcome those applications as well. And those two count towards the years of your teaching experience in religious education centers. Just to clarify, the professional experience in secular schools doesn't count towards this experience. It's preferable. It's going to look good on your application, and it will give you an edge, but it's not counting towards the 1-year requirement, REC requirement, okay, for eligibility purposes.
Zamira, can you see the question about, is teaching ginan and dua, does it count for teaching experience?
Not necessarily, unfortunately, unless you've been, it's been part of the Baitalil experience or religious education center experience to when you've engaged with youth, children, and so forth. So when you can basically, if you taught IIS secondary, primary, or ECD material, that really counts. But again, if you have that in addition to other things, this is again something which gives you an edge. So the rich experience you may be bringing to the classroom is considered along with a minimum 1 year requirement and REC teaching, because that REC teaching experience also gives us an understanding whether you really understand what teaching at religious education center entails. It is not a regular secular job, and there are really deep considerations for STEP graduates to go and work for ITREBs and work with the community and the Jamaat and youth and the parents and so forth. So it's similar but also unique in a way, similar to kind of secular setting, but very, very much also unique. So you have to really experience that and understand for yourself if that's the journey you want to undertake. It's a long-term commitment ultimately for yourselves and ourselves to enter this relationship, and as we call, to enter the family of STEP.
Somebody's asking if it's too late to take the IELTS test. If you can get a test done soon, then it should be fine. You should be able to get your results by the 21st of October. What I would suggest is that you book it as soon as possible, because they don't always have tests available, and you need to factor in the time that it will take to get your results as well. So there is time, but it's difficult to answer that because depending on where you are, the tests may not be very frequent. So in theory, the answer is yes, there is still time. Or sorry, in theory, the answer is no, it's not too late, but it does depend on where you are.
Yeah, and I think one important thing is that, look, applications are on the 21st October. So the results should be in by the deadline, okay? So not your test results, not your test taking place before this deadline. The results should be in. Okay, so please do consider and count carefully if you seriously considering applying, so that you kind of, it's usually taking two weeks for results to come in. Again, it depends on the center and the part of the world you're in, but if you count it, so at least at the beginning of October, you will have taken a test for it to come and be clear, and we receive the results by 21st October. Again, and some countries do check the timetable of the IELTS academic, okay, or accepted equivalents. And again, you will find links on the website taking you to UCL website and other kind of explanations of what is accepted or not. But in some contexts, it's only once IELTS tests take place only once a month. So do plan accordingly, okay? Again, in other contexts, those are more frequent, so you have more luxury with playing with the timings and stuff like that. You've also asked if REC teaching experience will be acceptable from any REC of the region. Not only region, any country. You know, we are very mobile this day and age, so cumulatively it will count towards, and it doesn't matter whether you're in a center or urban or rural area. So all REC teaching experience across even ECD primary or secondary will count towards your 1 year experiences, cumulative experience, including your summer camps, you know, contributing to summer camps, global encounters camp, and so forth. So this is all being considered. This is a naughty question. Am I allowed to count experience for each grade while you were simultaneously teaching? No, it's your experience cumulatively, not individually, if you see what I mean. Yeah. So after being a STEP teacher and my contract starts in those 5 years, I get married. Can I get transferred in those particular? We had those scenarios where STEP teachers would come on the program complete, and when return within the contractual obligation or commitment years they married. They actually, in all cases, completed their placements in the country they've been recruited from, and then relocated to join their spouses in another context. So the answer is, when you've come with certain ITREB, you're committed to return to work with that ITREB.
one of the questions about joining side activities, because I wasn't sure what that was referring to.
I can answer it out loud if that's okay.
Sure.
So I think what they mean is if there's any extracurriculars or anything. Like Rahmat mentioned, he did a lot of football. A lot of our cohort mates actually do play football out here, and it's like a little like club. I know that some of our cohort mates also go to dance classes for stress relief for like an hour after classes are done. There's plenty of opportunities to go volunteer at Jamaat Khana as well. A lot of our cohort mates do that as well. There's a lot of events around London that are sponsored by the institutions here as well. And you can go volunteer at those as well. And I know that a lot of our cohort mates have really positive experience from those as well. So I hope that was what you were looking for.
Zaina, not to mention how much you spend create opportunities within the Victoria Halls, the residents, isn't it? All these mehfils and other things which are beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of events that even a lot of our cohort mates, they're very good with instruments. So sometimes we'll hold little concerts or mehfils for ginans, qasidas, and other devotional literature. And there's a lot of opportunities. Even your cohort reps will work with student services, and we will do some events in that manner as well. Your reps will also arrange some for you as well as part of the cohort.
Victoria Hall also does its own activities for students. So they have a yoga teacher come every week. They do pizza nights, quiz nights, you know, I think this year they did a Chinese New Year night where they brought in Chinese food. And then again, as I said, there are also the activities put on by student services at the IIS. So there's plenty to get involved in should you wish to do so.
Zamira, I think it's correct to say that any region teaching experience would be accepted from any region. It doesn't need to be the particular region that they're applying.
Absolutely, not just region, country, yeah, part of the world. And someone asked whether your teaching placements will be, let's say, if you're coming from Western USA, can my teaching assignments be in other parts of the US or only in my region? Really, this depends on the conversation or decision discussions with by ITREB, because ITREB considers various, they play kind of, not play, but they consider various elements of the placements, whether there is a need for certain person or teacher in certain region where there is you know, so various considerations. I think Zaina, like specifically comes from US. She can mention, Zaina, were you teaching in your own placement and how the considerations are being made? Because each ITREB faces its own requirements and complexities and needs. And I think there is a discussion then around those when placements are considered. Zaina, do you want to comment?
Yeah, so it depends on where you're living and where you've taught. I think any teaching experience is considered. In my case, I was teaching in my home region, but I'm not close to a center, so I had to travel to teach, and that was considered as well. I think if you've done online teaching as well, that also counts. I think you really should speak with the ITREB representatives, and they'll guide you in that.
And Zaina, as the placement, you know, while on the program, your placements, do you have a say? I mean, it's a discussion, of course, but you're not always placed in your own region. It really depends on the needs of ITREB, right?
Yes. In terms of once you're graduating, ITREB USA will place you in that respect.
Yeah,
Yep.
and there is this placement for 10 weeks in your home context while you're on the program in the second year of studies. And that's where you also may or may not be teaching in your own region, depending on the needs of a ITREB and the discussions, overall discussions you're having. I think, Zaina, one of you was in your own context, isn't it? Another wasn't. So it's always a mixed bag depending on the needs of ITREBs. Is there a max amount of individuals accepted? How can I stand out with my application? Yes, there is the places. There is a number of places which are being offered each year who we consider for STEP. But as I've mentioned, the applications are all based on a merit-based applications, which considers multiple aspects of your preparedness to join the program. For example, from the background, academic educational background you come from, the teaching experience you've gained and acquired, your ability to think critically and reflectively about your teaching experience, as well as you know, ultimately your academic background, but also grades. Would you maybe have concerns about your ability to study at master level at a rigorous program? Because it's not just an ordinary master level which is taught in UK. It is really, really rigorous. I think the students here may vouch for that. So I guess then the certain nudge which may be given to yourself is something like, you know, you've done community Jamaat work in addition to whatever other things. You may have been part of other voluntary activities or professional activities. Also, if most of our STEP students do not come from the kind of religious education, Islamic studies, or education related backgrounds. So if you're not having that background, we still consider yourselves, but it's your job to tell us in your personal statement how transitioning from that kind of background to something which is religious education, Islamic studies and education. So how can you arrive to that? Convince us what has happened that made you choose this career path, but based on real examples from your career, from your professional life, from your voluntary work and so forth. Okay, so do think critically about the challenges faced by youth, and if you had anything in your classroom, in the way you've studied Islam or something, do bring it out. Bring the criticality out in your personal statement as well. Think about what is there kind of that may have contributed to shaping the faith of individual, nurturing or helping young adolescents and children to nurture their faith and an identity kind of thing and so forth. So I guess be critical. Again, I invite Rahmatnazar and Zaina to contribute what else might be helpful to see in the applications, as they've been obviously successful through the process of application. Anything else which give you a nudge?
I think, yes, I would say that everything starts from dreaming. So I dreamed about studying in London and also studying STEP program. It was my dream, and but it wasn't like there, just a dream. So it comes with efforts, with hard working, and also like improving. And I would say that everything is possible. So, and I wish best of luck for all of you with your applications. And I would say things happens. And so just believe in yourself and also work carefully with your applications, consider everything. And I would say, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Zaina,
Thank
any
you very much.
advice from you on application?
I would just say, that stay involved, always stay involved with the community, keep up with a lot of the programs that are there. And over here, you will have plenty of opportunities to be interacting with similar institutions. You will have opportunities to build upon the skills that you are forming when you're applying and through the application process as well. And I have to agree with Ramad, like it's always also my dream. It still is also my dream. And if you're passionate about it, you will get there.
Back up whatever you tell us with some evidence from your career experiences and so forth. Don't be just theoretical and abstract. We want to see some evidence in what you've done. So yeah, hopefully that will help you to build your application stronger. Okay. Someone said, if I don't want to live in Victoria Hall and live in my own apartment, is it allowed in London? So again, Victoria Hall in itself is a place where which enables extra things to happen outside the classroom. Create a bond with peers and so forth. On exceptional circumstances, this is allowed, but it's on exceptional circumstances which have to be looked into on a case-by-case basis and approved accordingly. After completing the STEP, can I continue my studies of a doctorate degree there? Absolutely. After completing your 5-year commitment with the ITREB, upon the completion of the STEP, and then as you go back and complete your commitment with the ITREB for 5 years, you're absolutely welcome to apply for graduate, for PhD, whether outside in any country or in UK, and be sponsored by the IIS scholarship. Absolutely. In fact, we very much welcome STEP applicants after those who have completed the assignment with the ITREBs, contractual agreement with the ITREBs. We absolutely welcome and really looking forward for them to apply and be successful on the PhD program sponsored by the IIS. Okay. On the UCL website, you will be able to find the language criteria, okay, because we follow their language criteria as well. Basically, in order to be eligible for the IIS for STEP, you have to meet both UCL and SOAS/IIS requirements, eligibility requirements. So on the UCL website, it's the general general web page for guidelines for applicants as related to languages, if that's the question you meant.
Yeah,
So
I think that question, Zamira, was about somebody was asking
language
about,
requirement, isn't it? Language
I think they
English
were asking about
language
the
proficiency.
degree. They said they knew some people who had 4-year degrees from Pakistan and they weren't accepted, but some were. So eligibility is quite complex, and so it depends on a lot of factors, including the year that the qualification was achieved, the duration of the qualification, the institution it was studied at, the subject that was studied, the grade that was received. So it's very, very difficult. In fact, it's impossible to give a blanket answer to that. So there can be candidates from the same country with a degree, for example, of the same duration, but perhaps it was a different grade or a different institution. So it's not, we can't just say if you've got this degree from this country, then you'll be accepted.
Yeah.
So there will be a bit more information about this in next week's webinar. But if you go to UCL's pages for international students, you can select your country and you can see a breakdown of what they accept for postgraduate qualifications. So that will give you a bit more information there.
Yeah, and I hope that we've managed to answer to a number of your questions and queries as related to the application process for this new cohort, which will be now cohort 17, believe it or not. STEP is aging in a good way. It's growing and getting bigger. The family of STEP is getting bigger, so we really hope that we can welcome you to the STEP family.